Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. In this video, I'm going to be replacing a single handle kitchen faucet. So the current faucet is a Moen, and I found basically an exact replacement. So the complaint here is that the pull-out hose on the right side is leaking. I don't really think it's worth trying to buy replacement parts. It's probably better just to replace the entire faucet. But with that in mind, we'll look at our setup. So this is the current faucet. It's a single handle Moen. There's actually Scotch tape holding the cap at the top for the cartridge, but the spout is stiff here. It's leaking at the sprayer on the right, so this thing is past its life. It's not worth trying to fix. So now I'll just replace it. So what we'll do now is material and tools. Alright, this is the materials list. So this is the faucet here. It has the sprayer, single handle, base plate, everything else should be here for it. So guys, specifically this is a Moen Chateau. We'll take a quick look at the information for this faucet. Alright guys, so this is the information for the faucet. So it's a Moen Chateau. I guess this is the part number for the faucet. Unfortunately, this one here doesn't have a cute little box with a picture on the side, but in case you're interested for what kind of faucet this is, here's the information. So what we'll do now is a tools list. Alright, this is a tools list. So I have my kit here, my carrier. So I'll probably need channel locks, Crescent wrench, maybe my Basin wrench, Rachet wrenches, but because this is a faucet, there's no fabrication required, so basic hand tools should be all I need on this job. The bracket in the middle is what holds the spout in place. The hot supply is on the left, and it's the same thing for the cold supply on the right. Alright, I'm going to start by shutting off water. So these are globe style. These are probably original to the house, but shut off both the hot and cold. It doesn't matter which one you do first, and then the supply lines can be loosened off. So here I've loosened off the hot side. You can see that the globe valve shut off is not holding at all anymore. The washer is probably disintegrated because it's so old. But the bottom of the supply line will be a 5/8, and then for the brass side, I'm just going to use a crescent wrench to back wrench it to hold it in place. Guys, remember to always back wrench because you can wind up breaking something, and then you're going to have to go back and fix it later on. For the top of the supply lines, I'm using a Basin wrench to loosen off the nut. So for the faucet side, there is flat portions where 9/16 can be used to back wrench. With the supply lines removed, now the nut that's holding on the bracket can be removed. So this is 5/8. You may have to hold on the spout at the top to back wrench to get the nut off. This one's not in too bad shape, but sometimes it can be really rusty. But loosen this off. Once it's loosened off, the hose for the wand can be loosened off next. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get the nut off. Now I'm going to loosen off the nut that holds on the wand hose. So I'm just going to use channel locks for this. Keep in mind, the wand hose will be full of water because there's a big low point. So when you loosen it off, make sure that the end goes into a bucket before you pull the wand out, so you catch all the water and not make a mess inside the cabinet. With the wand hose removed, I can now remove the nut and take out the spout. So if the nut is stuck, be careful about not putting channel locks on the threads and mangling the threads, because if you mangle the threads, the nut is not going to come off very easily or at all, and then you're going to have to take a grinder and cut it off, and that's going to be dangerous in such a tight space. Now I'm going to remove the portion for the wand. So this is just plastic. If you need to, you can throw a Basin wrench on the wings for the plastic if the nut is really tight, or you can try channel locks as well, but this one wasn't bad in this case. With everything removed, now the sprayer and the faucet can be removed. So be sure once the faucet is removed that you clean underneath the plate before you install the new plate. So for the base plate, there's a plastic piece that goes underneath with a black gasket. The black gasket goes down towards the sink. That's going to be your waterproof. For the wand, put the trim piece in. Again, there's a black gasket that goes towards the sink. It's straightforward. It's pretty self-explanatory. I just realized that I didn't film it. Now the faucet portion can be put in. So keep in mind there is a groove that the faucet is going to sit into. If you see the thread sticking out, that means there's a gap and the faucet portion isn't sitting in the groove in the base plate. Since the hot stop is leaking so much, you can see the condensation building on the camera lens. But anyways, I'm going to put the nut on for the trim piece for the wand. It's just plastic. Do it up hand tight. I don't think you need to put a wrench on this. It's only plastic anyway, so you should be careful, but tighten it up, and then we're going to start looking at connecting the supply lines. For the spout, put the metal washer on first, and then the nut with the screws goes after. So put in the screws and just do it a little bit short of sticking out the other end. This will make it easier before you go ahead and thread the nut onto the actual threaded portion of the spout. So tighten this up as much as you can. I don't think a basin wrench is going to work on this nut because it's too big. But tighten it up as much as you can. You can try to get some channel locks on. But once the nut is tight, go around in a circular pattern and tighten up the screws. So for tightening up the screws, go in either a star or a circular pattern. But tighten one screw up a bit. Go to the next one. Do that one up a bit. And then continue until you finally feel resistance. If you tighten one up all the way, the washer may not sit straight, and then the faucet can be crooked. So now the bottom of the supply lines can be connected. So I'm going to start with the hot just because it's leaking so badly, but it doesn't matter which one that you start with. Tighten up the supply lines as tight as you can until they stop, and that should be fine. So once again, I'm using a Crescent wrench to back wrench. You have to back wrench when you're tightening supply lines, because especially when stuff gets old, it's going to kink, break, shear apart. You know, bad things will happen. So make it a habit, a rule of thumb, to put a Crescent wrench or another wrench and hold the part in place while you tighten down the supply line. So the last thing to connect is the wand hose. This has a quick disconnect. All you have to do is push in and give it a pull. You'll see that the wand hose is coiled up. You may want to pull it apart, stretch it out a little bit. I think it's going to straighten itself out later on once there's water in it. But make sure that's not coiled up, because you can kink it and then you're not going to be able to pull it out very far. Now I'm going to open the stops to test with water. So for these globe styles, open them all the way and then give them a quarter turn back so it doesn't seize to the body. But both these valves should be replaced. I'm going to talk to the homeowner about it. But now it's time to run water through the faucet. So I'm removing the aerator before I run water through the faucet. Any debris or anything might get stuck in the aerator, so just take it out, run water through hot and cold, and a few seconds should be enough. Put the aerator back on and also test the wand hose. Make sure everything is all good to go, that you have free flowing water. So to wrap up, make sure that the supply lines aren't kinked, that you have a good flow of water through both sides of the faucet, that the faucet isn't making noise. That would be a kink line. The wand hose, pull it out, send some water through it, make sure everything is good to go, and that should be it for this job. Alright guys, so that concludes this job. So this was a relatively straightforward install. I didn't run into any issues. Nothing was rusted together. I mean, the previous faucet was probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years old based on the condition of it, but everything went really well. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that the shutoffs for this faucet, especially the hot, doesn't hold tight anymore. And this will be a very common problem that you need to be prepared for. Having a pan or a bucket or something underneath is something that will be a regular occurrence when it comes to an older place like this. So this is going to be something that you have to keep in mind, but otherwise everything went really well. I will talk to the homeowner about replacing the stops, but that's going to be up to them. The time on this job, the time was about an hour. I mean, I didn't run into any issues. I didn't have to cut anything off. So this job actually went very smoothly. The cost of this job. The faucets, paper towels. The cost of this job was probably about $250, somewhere in that range. I mean, it's at the low end for cost, even though it's a Moen. I mean, you can get some crazy high costing faucets for this, but since this is a rental, the homeowner wanted to keep it as basically as cheap as possible, and I wound up being successful in achieving that goal. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project when you need to go ahead and do that. Guys, till next time, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next project.